Good morning. It's a beautiful Wednesday. Of course, it's midweek, and we welcome you to the midweek edition of Breakfast Live. My name is Roslyn Felly.
And my name is Kodzo Yaotse. Today we have a lot of stories, but we're focusing on the GNPC's expenditure and, of course, what has PIAC said. I cited a report also by ACEP as far back as 20th February, stating clearly their reservations on the expenditure, especially on activities of CSR. And so we'll be talking about that. We quickly now move to the substantive issue for today, is the GNPC's expenditure. In the wake of a lot of things, there was, if you like, a picture of an expenditure that went around. Actually, listening to people who speak for GNPC, especially the PR, they've gone out to justify. But interestingly, I cited a news item on one of the news portals. That's on 20th February. That's from ACEP, who had expressed reservation on what the expenditure, especially on CSR, would mean for them. And so luckily, we have Kodzo Yaotse with us from ACEP. Let's quickly start with you on that. It is true that you released a statement and then you made some reservations, right?
Yeah, earlier in the year, we took GNPC's work program. So GNPC submits their budget, sort of, to Parliament to approve for them to spend in the year. So we took the work program and did an analysis on it, trying to see how GNPC is spending our oil money. Mind you, all the monies that GNPC spends come from our oil money. So we did the analysis and we saw that GNPC intended to spend $43 million on corporate social responsibility. We were alarmed and we decided to call public attention to it. We even wrote to the Parliamentary Select Committee on Mines and Energy to actually review that budget. But it looks as if it has been allowed to go through. That is how you see some of these monies being sent to places that that has no relation to the core mandate of GNPC.
Right.
So what we see is that GNPC is becoming more of a development corporation that is undertaking projects that would ordinarily be government projects. So we have sector ministries that are delivering projects on education, on health, on sports and all these things. But you have GNPC also doing the same. So you ask yourself, if government is intentionally pushing money to GNPC so that they will undertake those development projects off the books of government so they can also take credit for them because it was done in their tenure. And we find that to be very worrying, especially when you consider how much GNPC wants to spend on CSR, and you compare it to the budget for certain ministries.
Right.
It's very worrying, and I have some statistics here. When you compare to the Ministry of Finance, for example, Ministry of Finance capital budget, it is over by 629%. How much GNPC want to spend on CSR alone?
Wow.
When you take the total budget of the Ministry of Finance, it is over by 69%.
Wow.
For CSR alone. So you ask yourself, what are we turning GNPC to? And then when you compare this 43 million to what is actually their core mandate.
43 million what?
Dollars.
Hey!
Yes, when you compare to their core mandate, which is exploration and drilling, they are spending only $20.3 million.
I'll be going to Mr. Jantwa, who will tell us what GNPC really stands for, what's their core mandate, and whether or not there have been some responsibilities that they've shirked. But of course, one of your persons also said, look, since the establishment of this corporation, they've audited their accounts. The audited report was only published once in 2014. The rest, we've not seen anything. But this is our money.
Yeah.
And so can you confirm that GNPC has not at any point published their audited report?
So I mean, that's one thing that we struggle with GNPC. I mean, you look for data from them, and you don't get it. GNPC is a partner in all our producing fields, and you expect that they have data on everything that is going on. We're doing some work on petroleum cost auditing, and we wanted to see how we are exercising our auditing rights as a country to be able to verify the costs of the cost that our partners in the field bring to deduct from the total oil production.
Right.
And then, I mean, the auditing agencies, which is the GRA and the Audit Service and Co., they say they don't get the data. But then you have GNPC, who is the state's entity, partnering those people, and should know how much cost goes into every production, and they should even approve and discuss the work programs of all these things. They are not transparent with their data. So all that we get is what they submit to Parliament every year to be approved, and unfortunately we don't even get what has been approved to even peruse to know how much.
Before I finally go to Mr. Janto, are you not worried that the minority is now beginning to say, we're going to push it to the floor and we will ensure that you are exposed? When, of course, ACEP drew their attention to these huge sums of money to be spent?
Well, that is what politicians do. They've descended into the realm of political games. And, I mean, it's worrying that we've reduced such issues of grave concern to political gameplays. And, I mean, it's time that we all set up and decide for ourselves that what exactly do we want GNPC to do? Do we want GNPC to be Ghana's corporation that is into oil and gas investments and carrying the state's interest in our exploration and production of oil? Or we want GNPC to be a development corporation like any other development authorities that we are setting up to deliver development objectives? We need to have that conversation, bipartisan conversation.
Right. I'll come back to you. Lawyer Kwame Jantoa, who is this demigod, GNPC, that spends $43 million on CSR and goes away with it? Of course, you can say the board even approved of it, and so there's once it's in the ambit of the law, we can move and go ahead. But does it make a bit of sense to want to spend such money, especially when we give 1.5 million, if you like, for greening, environment and greening, I mean tree planting? So we want to understand who is GNPC, for the benefit of all of us, what is their core mandate, Mr. Jantoa?
Now, you call it a demigod.
I
Why
know,
do you call it a demigod?
Because I feel that they've not been able to publish their audited reports. They are working freely. GRA and other entities are not able to, get a lot of info from them. I mean, what can I call it, for want of a better word?
I wouldn't use that word demigod.
Okay.
Why? Because they are under a law.
Okay.
There's a law that mandates GNPC's objective and responsibilities.
Right.
And that law is the PNDC Law 64.
Right.
That is the law that established GNPC. Now, what are the objectives of that law? It says, and I quote, "The objectives of the corporation are to undertake the exploration, development, production, and disposal of petroleum." 2, without limiting the generality of subsection 1 of this section, the corporation shall promote the exploration and the orderly and planned development of the petroleum resources of Ghana. B, ensure that Ghana obtains the greatest possible benefits from the development of its petroleum resource. C, obtain the effective transfer of Ghana of appropriate technology relating to petroleum operations. D, ensure the training of citizens of Ghana and the development of national capabilities in all aspects of petroleum operations. And E, ensure that petroleum operations are conducted in such a manner as to prevent adverse effects on the environment, resources, and people of Ghana.
Right.
So, you see that the law has indicated what GNPC is supposed to do. They are supposed to do exploration. They are supposed to do promote exploration of develop planned petroleum resources and also train.
Okay.
Ghanaians.
Has there been any point where GNPC checked their responsibility or complained about monies not being available to do their core mandate, what they were established to do?
So you ask the question: have they been able to perform their core mandate?
Absolutely.
That's the question one asks.
Yeah.
Now, when you look at GNPC, so far as I can see, are they a Talo? Are they a Cosmos? Are they an ACEP? Are they an ENI? I ask this because all these companies I've mentioned
Are private?
are exploring and producing oil.
Okay.
Now, based on the fact that they are exploring and producing oil, they have a responsibility to CSR. What oil is GNPC exploring and producing?
I see.
What oil? Where in offshore or onshore basins have GNPC explored and produced oil? So if they are not exploring and producing oil, why should they have CSR? Why? What is the reason behind it? And you see, the challenge we are having now, we are going down the same line we went with Tor. From that point, that if they haven't drilled a drop of oil, why should they have CSR?
Right.
Because are they earning the money themselves? They are not earning the money themselves. It is Ghana's take that they're giving part to them.
Absolutely.
They take it from the ABFA. It is given to them. What is it given to them to do? It's given to them to develop themselves so that down the line they can become an IOC. Look, onshore, Voltaire Basin. Some of us have said to Petroleum Commission, President and all, leave the Voltaire Basin to Ghanaians alone. Let GNPC be the dominant IOC there and get Ghanaians.
When you say IOC, what do you mean?
The international oil companies.
Good.
Just like the Talos and
Talos
the Cosmoses of this
right,
world.
right.
Let Ghanaians handle that.
Right.
Why? Because onshore, you don't need $1 billion to buy an FPSO. You need a pump jack.
I see.
How much is a pump jack? How much to put in pipes and to put a reservoir up? How much is it? But the most important thing, and you read the law, they are to build capacity.
Right.
So the most important thing is that it will enable us build capacity in our young petroleum engineers. When you build capacity in a young petroleum engineer, you're not only building that capacity for Ghana alone. They can go anywhere in the world to work and gain the kind of knowledge that they need to even bring back to develop our oil industry.
Before I go to Dr.
Well, I'll finish before you go there. So you ask your question.
Okay.
There was one thing I wanted to also say.
Can anyone sue GNPC for not publishing its audited report so that we see this, so that we don't rely on this expose when it's quickly leaked into the media? That's when we get hold of it and make noise about it. Can we sue them for not publishing their audited report?
That is the ironical thing. GNPC is one institution that is audited and monitored, and they need to declare their audits to so many institutions, including Parliament. Even PIAC have all that. And that's the irony. If that is the case,
yes,
why is it that these things are happening? Why? Because they have to defend their budgets to so many institutions. Major one, Parliament. And so you ask the question, if this 43 million of CSR came to Parliament, what questions were asked of why the 43 million CSR? But this is where, for me, it comes back to the people. And what am I talking about? Why are Ghanaians always voting a political party that wins power why are they voting majority of members of that party into parliament? Why? If for anything at all, we should have a majority of the ruling party to be maybe 5-6 members, so that the real work of parliament can be done.
Quickly, let me do this. PIAC.
I wanted to go to the letter, but you go ahead.
The letter. PIAC.
Yes.
I read a news item. PIAC urges government to stop using GNPC to finance quasi-fiscal expenditure. And so the Public Interest and Accountability Committee, well, it's an independent statutory body mandated to promote transparency and accountability in the management of petroleum revenues in Ghana. Now, it says that it's according to PIAC, the usage of the act is to restrict GNPC's funds and brings into question the legal propriety. And so while the committee is satisfied with the quality of the spending by the foundation, it recommends Parliament to consider placing some restrictions on the proportion of GNPC's budget that can be channeled into CSI. Now, the point is that in these reports as well, they talk about political interference, too much interference in GNPC's activities. Now, there was even this issue once where we saw the board chair having taken a swipe, or there was this bad blood between the CEO and, of course, the board chair. Is that some of the things that we have to start looking at? But we cannot, there's no constitution, there's no law that bars even party people. And this is the party chairman we're talking about. Once he's competent, he can do that. But do you think some of these interferences is where we are as a result?
You see, the Constitution, as I keep saying, has expired.
Oh my!
It has expired.
That's true.
I'm dead against any government that comes into power and puts in place somebody who has responsibility, big responsibility in the power, and put him in sensitive places.
Yes.
Dead against it. Be it the fact that GNPC is a very technical area. Yes, it could be that that individual has capacity, but the snake in the room is conflict of interest. That is the snake in the room. Which one would he go for? And Senior Blay, I call him Senior Blay because I've known him since secondary school. Senior Blay, which one will come first? The MPP, if he needs to take a decision, the MPP or GNPC. And which one will come first? If it so happens that there is a challenge and GNPC needs to be investigated. So let me go to the letter. And the last one, the last institution that got money was IOCO.
Yes.
550,000.
I was going there with
550,000 cedis. At the present moment, do you know that the chairman of the MPP, Freddie Blay, is being investigated by IOCO for the bus things in the party? So, who says jump and how high?
Who sets the bar?
Who says jump and how high? If GNPC, being headed by the party chair, Freddie Blay, who is also being investigated by IOCO, now channels money to IOCO, why would they want to do anything? As the saying goes in Ashanti, but you see, the other thing we have to also question, the other side of the coin is that, why does GNPC allow, let's say that is how it is, Damba Festival, anniversary of Ochihene, tree planting of Ochihene, Ghana Journalists Association, Ghana Boxing Association, Rebecca Foundation, and IOCO. Why do they allow them to bring proposals for money? Why? Where in the law of GNPC or the Constitution does it state that this can be done? Why? And you see, the one reason why this is happening is because GNPC is not exploring and producing. Have they been able to pay their take of the ENI block? Have they been able to do it? So there are many issues to be discussed and looked at. And please, Nobody should think that you are trying to castigate
Yes,
government.
no, not at all. Not at all.
We want a good national oil company.
And that's what we are looking at.
And you see, for once,
right.
I did agree when GNPC went to Brazil during the World Cup, when they kind of sponsored. I did agree. Why did I agree? I went to the World Cup that year, and you saw GNPC banners everywhere. Everywhere. The sports stadium, the players' changing rooms, everywhere it was there. So you were advertising the oil company, and that could bring good returns. But if you listen to the reasons why this has happened, they say, oh, we are advertising locally. Who doesn't know GNPC locally?
I know. Let's quickly do this. It's a rab me thing. Even Mr. Domelevo has spoken and has said, why should an independent body like this, IOCO, whose mandate is to fight this thing, also be
exactly?
Yeah.
You know, you said something and you described GNPC as a demigod.
Right.
I wouldn't describe them like that. I would describe it as a cult.
Hey, is that not a strong one?
I would describe it as a cult or a shrine. So you don't know what is happening in the shrine.
Okay.
You understand that? It's because the brains behind the shrine, converting all these things into the shrine, they are the politicians.
But,
look, I'm coming.
Sorry to cut you. This is an agency, or if you like, a corporation that sends its budget to Parliament.
Exactly. That's what I'm coming to.
Okay, very well.
Has Parliament itself allowed GNPC to be transparent to an ordinary Ghanaian like myself? If they bring a budget and they're asking for $43 million for corporate social responsibility, and parliamentarians cannot ask them questions, how much are you earning in the first place to be able to demand the usage of $43 million for CSR?
Oh my.
You understand what I'm saying? So the puppeteers of the shrine are the politicians. The political interference, you know what? All the politicians, it is not only the political party in power,
No.
all of them.
All of them.
They all go, you know, seeking help from all these organizations. And as a result, transparency is lost. Two countries come readily into my mind when it comes to transparency in their petroleum operations.
Right.
Libya under Gaddafi and Norway. Even the one in college, or is it high school? I don't even know the educational system over there. They can tell you how much Norwegian oil revenue is coming to the country. They can tell you.
And probably what they use it for.
Probably what they use it for. Here,
but that one we know.
He has said it.
That we know.
Oh, yeah,
listen.
okay, sorry.
You see, it's just like Chamber of Mines engaging in CSR when it's the mining companies that are degrading the environment. You understand what I'm saying?
It doesn't really make sense.
Or National Communications Authority engaging in CSR when the media organizations, as corporate social responsibility, can carry out certain public education.
I see.
They can do it.
Right.
So GNPC has no business engaging. You know what? If you go out there, you want to criticize, and you want GNPC to expose its books for public scrutiny, politicians from all political hues and colors will jump to GNPC's defense.
Let me make a quick point.
Before we, because we have...
Yes, just a quick point. CSR from the major oil companies emanates out of the companies.
That's right.
The CSR here is imposed on GNPC. If it was GNPC who, within their own volition, said this is what we're doing, we'll understand.
How
did they impose it on them?
Well, no. Listen, just a minute. You see, hold on a second. You know, Rebecca Foundation. Who's Rebecca? President's wife. So she goes donating mammograph machines to hospitals and taking credit for it.
Did that come?
And that comes from the taxpayers' money.
Did that particular one emanate from GNPC?
No.
It was asked them.
That's right.
Well, that's
so
why,
for political patronage, they are forced to do it.
That's why we bring these guests here to ensure that we tell you what exactly the issues are. Quickly, we have been trying to do stories on people living with disabilities all through. And as a network, we are so much passionate about human stories. And we have a video for you. Take a watch. When we finish, we'll talk to the ACEP rep here, Mr. Kodzo Yaotse, and he'll tell us what he's been doing as far as people living with disabilities are concerned. Take a watch.
We've been bringing you information related to persons living with disabilities together with matters about their welfare. Do you remember a few days ago or a few months ago, we brought you a story in a community called Atiteti, where many of its residents were affected by some form of strange disease? Well, we also brought you a story about a boy called Koku. Koku is a 10-year-old boy who has been affected by some strange disease on the body. Let's take a look at this particular story. Was born with a skin disorder known as erythroderma, an inflammatory skin disease known as red man syndrome. It is a genetic deformity which demands the affected to smear lotion of shea butter on his or her body to prevent the skin from hardening, flaking off, or seizing up.
Have you been applying? We have been applying shea butter, babu, and
All right, so sorry for that. We should have called for viewer discretion on that. But you see, that's the condition. That's the condition in which somebody's living in. And there are worse stories. And our stories have captured it. We have just some few seconds. What has ACEP been doing to quickly get these people help?
Okay, so our initial thought was to unpack the question of impact in the oil and gas sector to see if we say we are spending oil money, who is actually benefiting. So we've been doing gender issues in the past. Now we try to extend it to see persons with disability, whether they are really benefiting from the oil resource. So it was just an idea of oil and gas for inclusive growth. But when we went to the ground, we saw that the issues that were there were bigger than just oil revenue expenditure, right? So you have school buildings, you have hospitals that are built with no accessibility concerns in mind. So persons with disability don't get access to them. And then we talked to them, they raised a number of issues. So we also talked to our partners, and for the next 2 or 3 years, they are committing $300,000 to help push advocacy for some of these things, because it's like we just, if we talk about inclusion, we just limit it to gender issues. But then persons with disability are also
excluded, the vulnerable.
Exactly. So we want to raise consciousness about some of these things and mainstream them into public conversations, into the national budgeting process, so that we can increase expenditure on addressing the issues of persons with disability in Ghana.
That's all time can allow us. I pray that you come again and speak about it. Thank you very much, Kodzo Yaotse. He's from ACEP, and of course, Dr. Akofa Segbefia, a media practitioner, and as always, lawyer Kwame Jantoa, CPP, a member, of course, a lawyer and an energy analyst.